Okay. Um, let's see. I've forgotten your name. Just a second here. I think is it Throwaway? I don't know what your actual name is, but the thread. Throwaway. Okay. Thanks a lot for the questions. And I thought it would be easiest to respond to you um, by by video. So hopefully this works for you. And let me see here. I'm going to look at these questions that you put up here. And first, I just want to say, like, I feel like I was where I once was where you are. So I feel like I really do understand what you're saying. And I just kind of want to give you some encouragement that, um, I really, I get that it seems impossible that it could be different than it is with regard to apeirophobia. And I really understand that. And it is hard. I mean, it's hard to see how it could be anything different than the way we're seeing it right now. And I don't know that I can offer you anything that will immediately shift your perspective so that you can see that. But I don't think it has to be that way. You don't have to change immediately what you're seeing or anything like that. Um, this journey out of apeirophobia can be something like you kind of see one piece a little bit more clearly and another and another and another and another, and then gradually something shifts in how you see things. Um, so right now, for example, you may feel very confident in the way you're seeing, in this apeirophobic vision, and we're going to talk more about it. And then at some other point, it may be you may feel like, I think maybe I'm seeing that wrong, actually. And then at some point, it can really be changed. Like, oh, well, that really was it's really false the way I was seeing things. Um, so it's a kind of a journey, and I'm glad you're on it. And this is just one try here to kind of talk to you about some things and see what see what you think of them. So I'm just looking here now at the some of the things you said. Um, and I say my struggles with apeirophobia, it's the fact that I believe I will always have to be aware for eternity, kind of like if you were always extremely tired but never were able to sleep. I think that's great. That's what you just said there, the way you described it. And one central message that I have for you is that there simply is a difference between how we think about things and the way they actually are. And we can imagine things, you know, we can imagine things that can't be, that are not, and also can't be. I can imagine a green sky out there right now. There's not a green sky out there. I just looked a little while ago. It's a gray sky. I can imagine that. It's not that way. I can imagine things that couldn't be also. Like I could imagine a sky that's made of um, chocolate fudge. I don't know if that came into my mind. The sky can't be made of chocolate fudge. I can imagine it, but it's just not possible. So we can imagine things that just can't be also. And we should just know that, that our mind can play tricks on us about what's possible for us. Along along these lines, um, what I'm going to suggest here is that, this way that we see things that leads to apeirophobia. I'm going to suggest something that, people are, generally speaking, are not going to tell you out in the regular world, because, you know, what you're mostly going to get uh, is a kind of agreement that this world is the way it seems to be at first glance, and that we are who and what we think we are at first glance, and that this is really how it is. And what I mean by that is that, like my name is Mark, and that uh, that there really is something called Mark in here that's findable. And I really do live here, in this on this planet, and that's and there's a truth to that. Um, uh, and then the story is that, I'm born and I die, and then there's something in me called Mark, say, that's like a soul, or that's like my mind or consciousness, and somehow then that either dies when I die, or it can keep going and either become another human somehow, rebirth or reincarnation, or go to heaven or hell or something like that, or float in space. We don't know clearly, but that's the picture, that there's like an individual and there's the world that the individual's in. And and it may be that time is, that has no beginning and has no end. And so you've got this picture of this individual being that kind of moves from the instant or the infinite past into the indefinite future on this timeline, you know. And it's all very solid, and it makes sense like as a picture, it's very kind of like sorry, I've got this terrible burn on my nose here. That itches sometimes. But um that's the picture. It makes, yeah, at some level it's like true. Then it seems like it makes perfect sense, of a being going through time. And then you can imagine that, like say you believe in multiple or an infinite rebirths, say. I can imagine myself infinitely in the past, and then I'm here right now at this point in time. Let's say the past is right here and the future is going this way. And I'll just kind of keep being reborn and reborn and reborn and reborn all the way into the future. And say infinity is somehow a way, it just keeps going that way infinitely. And so I'm kind of traveling through the universe like that. And that's the way it is. Um, that's like a common sense way of seeing things. And it seems like it's got to be something like that, or, my soul is kind of traveling along and it's in this being right now and it's going to keep going, it seems that way. It seems that way. Um, so one thing I want to say is that that is the way, that's one of the assumptions that we have, that it's really just like that. And that is the ultimate way of seeing what's going on here. Like it's the truest way of seeing what's going on here. And so then it really seems like there has to be, that the apeirophobic vision has to kind of make sense, because there's this being that's going to be in this like infinite box of time, from the infinite past to the infinite future. And you have this being that's just going to go, 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 keep going, going, going. And it's going to somehow be trapped in this. It doesn't make sense to be trapped because there's no boundaries. But I get you. I know what you mean. It's trapped in this thing. It can never, this being can't get out of this box that it's in of time, you know. And that's kind of the way we think about things. And one thing I really want to, a point I want to make right now is that's the way we think about things. That's what everything I just said to you. I mean, I'm talking, it's a story. It's bringing up images in your mind. That's a picture. It's a story. All that is a story of how things are. And we believe in it. It's like, oh, that's it. That's right. That's how it is. Something like that. We don't know the particulars, but it's something like that. Um, so at the moment, I just want to, you to consider that everything I just said is a particular way of thinking about what's going on here, and it's a story. Just recognize that it's a story, and just see if you can, since it's a story, just consider that there may be things about that story that are not actually correct. Like right now, I used to study physics. I have bachelor's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in physics. And top physicists now, they don't feel that time and space are fundamental, actually, which is pretty interesting. So if time and space, if this is what physics is saying right now, time and space are not fundamental, that means there's something off with this whole picture. It's not right, this whole picture. And this is just like in 2024, you know, physics of 2024. Whatever we as human beings are saying about reality, it's what we as human beings are seeing, thinking, and making stories about right now at a particular point in time. And so the whole thing is a story, you know. And there's you know a lot of indications, including things that we can see directly in our own experience that I can share. Some things I can share with you that make this picture a little bit suspect. You know, it's a story that you'll get on the street that everybody believes in as a basic thing. It's like how we think it is. Just because we think it's true, it doesn't mean it is true. So I'm really saying that because there is this certainty in the apeirophobic idea. There's a certainty in it because it seems like it has to be that way. And one thing I want to say is it only has to be that way if you think that this story that I was painting has to be true. We know for sure that it does not have to be true. I mean, physics, it can't actually be true that way. Actually, you know, it can't actually be that way. Um, and you know, our deepest physical understandings right now are that it isn't that way, just like that. So it's open, you know, so just you can just think, okay, well, the apeirophobic idea seems like it's got some truth in it, but maybe it's not the whole truth. Just that, the idea that it's maybe not the whole truth, just that can be a little helpful because it might make you feel like, okay, well, maybe there's something I'm not seeing about this that's right. Maybe some people, you know, who lived before me, maybe really wise people, maybe they saw something different. They somehow could perceive or sense or know something that I'm not seeing. Just let it be a possibility for you. I think that's super important because especially as I said, if you're intelligent, you may think like you've got something figured out. Well, it's a apeirophobic thing. Yeah, I've got it figured out, and I'm seeing things that most people can't see, and I know something about infinity that most people don't know. All that stuff. That you know, this is actually what's happening there. Is our story making ability is pretty good, and then we're really convinced that we have the right story. It's a story. If I'm speaking to you about it and making a sensical narrative for you, it's a story. It's a story. It's a thinking. And there's a difference between thinking and experiencing, seeing directly. It's a distinction that I'll return to again and again. And in returning to that again and again in different ways, this is something that can gradually kind of like undermine the feeling of like it has to be about the apeirophobic story. So you said this is an example, even the first thing you said. Um, I believe I will always have to be aware of fraternity, kind of like if you were always extremely tired, but never were able to sleep. Like we can think of that, right? You know, never being able to sleep, extremely tired, but never being able to sleep. But actually, that's impossible. There's never been anybody on the planet that could prevent themselves from sleeping. They may have insomnia or be up, you know, like up a lot, but they will go to sleep. They will go to sleep. So it's like built in, you know. So we can make a picture of like never going to sleep. And this is kind of like if you think about death, you can think about it that way. It's like, okay, at least when I'm living here on the planet or whatever right now, it's like there's some times when I'm not conscious. Conscious right now, I become unconscious when I'm asleep. And then I get a rest from the kind of consciousness that we're afraid of continuing endlessly with apeirophobia. And then I'm conscious again when I wake up. And we can think that like maybe it's something like after death. Why would I sleep after death? It's like then I'm just dead, except I'm awake endlessly. I don't know. You know, maybe after death there's really good sleep. You know, maybe you never, you know, the sleep after death is the best sleep you get. Like maybe there's being awake and asleep and awake and asleep. I mean, even this picture here of extremely tired but never able to sleep, it captures something about this fear that we have of consciousness going on and on and on and on, never, never, never being able to rest. Even the picture that we can paint here of, you know, of like extremely tired but never able to sleep, even that picture has kind of a flaw in it. because we're imagining something that actually, as far as we know, our experience right now, it's actually not possible. Again, this is an instance of kind of we can imagine something being the case that isn't the case. And then we can get super terrified about it, even though it's not possible. Okay. Um, as you said, something about knowing that I will always be aware with no escape just terrifies me to the point, of seclusion and depersonalization. Like right now, you sleep, so you're not always aware in the way that we're afraid of, you know. So, um, but you're afraid of being always aware, always aware. I know it's more than that. I mean, there's like an idea, and you may think, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, I'll sleep sometimes. I'll be awake and I'll be sleeping. That'll continue forever. Okay. We'll talk more about that. Um, but I think there's something in the apeirophobic vision, this nightmare of being awake forever. That is, it doesn't contain within it the relaxation of sleep or the relief of sleep or there's something in the vision is something like always, always conscious. Sometimes I think it might be related to, like, because this comes on people often when they're young. 7 to 9 is often when it starts. It's like when we become, we may be trying to go to sleep as a child. And it's almost like the time when we recognize that we actually have consciousness and we're trying to get ourselves to go to sleep. We want to go to sleep, but we can't. We can't make ourselves go to sleep. And we may, when we have a fear, we can have a fear that I'm never going to fall asleep. And it can be unnerving. It can be terrifying, actually, that, oh my God, since I'm awake right now and I can't be asleep when I'm awake, I could keep myself awake forever, although I'm so tired. It can be terrifying. And then we wake up the next morning. It's like that. Like uh, there's this natural kind of cycle of relief from this awakeness that happens for us. Maybe it's the case that it's somehow built into reality. There's this natural relief from this problem of having this uh, self-consciousness all the time. There's more to say about that too.